If you're thinking about selling your house, it's important that you consider how the 4 P's of marketing are going to affect you when it's time to sell. Is it okay if I just speak frankly with you? Listen, I don't want to beat around the bush. If you're here, it's because you're thinking about selling your home, or your home's already on the market and it's not selling and you don't know what to do about it. I am going to tell you that it always boils down to the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, placement, and promotion. These 4 P's actually all work together in order to give you the best chance of selling. What I'm going to tell you about product is assuming you want the highest price. And if what I tell you about product is something that you're not willing to do, you're going to have to compensate for that in price. Keep that in mind as we move forward with this. The first P of marketing is product. And when you're selling your home, the product is your home. You've got to get it into its best shape possible. Now listen, there's a difference between how we live in our houses and how we market our houses. Trust me, if I were going to put my house on the market today, there's a lot of things I would need to do. Our houses are our cozy little dens and we live in them however we want to live in them. You live in it in whatever way works best for you. Now it's time to sell, so we've got to get it market ready. What are some ways to do that? Number 1, remove the clutter. Get out your packing boxes and let's get started. After all, the goal is to sell your house and you're going to have to move out. So you may as well start packing up some of those more personal items right off the bat. The more personalized your home is, the harder it is for a buyer to see themselves in your space. Not to mention that when it comes time for photography, a lot of items cluttering the space actually hurt your chances of getting seen online in such a way that people go, oh, I really want to see that in person. After all, the first place we have to sell your house is online. But wait, we'll get to that when we start talking about promotion. Stay with me. Get rid of all your knickknacks and collections that are very personal to you. We also want to get rid of any pictures of your family and things like that. Now, that being said, sometimes you might have a large portrait of your family or your wedding or your grandbaby, whatever the case may be. You've got a large portrait above the fireplace or somewhere else that's really prominent. And if you were to take it down, it would just leave a blank space. So make sure you're working with a real estate professional who can help walk you through what's going to need to go and what's going to be okay if it stays. Depersonalize, declutter, and also get some of that furniture out of there. I mean, I get it. You're in your living room and you need enough space for everyone who lives there to sit down and watch the TV. However, it's brought a lot of clutter into the space and makes the living room look a little bit smaller than it actually is. So let's get rid of some of that furniture. Either go ahead and put it in a different location, or go ahead and sell it, put it in the garage, let's get a storage unit, whatever we need to do. Again, the goal is to get you the highest price possible, so we have to put our best foot forward. Another tip is that if you have a house that has a gorgeous view and a lovely window that captivates that view, you've got to move any furniture or obstructions away from that window. Too often I see huge curtains that obstruct the view, or people have put some furnishings in front of the window that kind of block it, or in front of the beautiful French doors. We've got to get rid of that because people need to be able to see what a gorgeous view that they have from the home. Once you've decluttered and depersonalized your home, the next step is to get it cleaned. I always recommend having a professional cleaning crew come through the house and give it a nice sparkle and shine. I get it, not everybody's comfortable having professional cleaners come through their home. However, I think in this circumstance, it's truly important to make sure that you've got somebody who does this for a living. If you don't do this on a day-to-day basis, it's really easy to overlook things. You think you've dusted everything, and then I come in to do the photos and I see big dust bunnies underneath the bed or the dresser or by the TV. These are things that buyers are going to pick up on, that a lot of times when we live in our space, we literally turn a blind eye to it because we just see it every day and we're used to it. So bring in a professional cleaning crew, let them go to work and do the work on your behalf. to make sure the house is in its best possible condition. Don't neglect the windows. Clean windows are one of the most important things when it comes to showing a house. A clean window really makes the space look larger than it is, and so it's a really important factor. Finally, make sure you've got your landscaping also nice and cleaned up. Whatever it is that you need to do to specifically make your place look good. Do you need to paint the front door? Make it happen. Do you need to maybe paint some fascia boards and things like that that are by the roof line? Let's get that done. Those are some really cost-effective ways to spruce up your living space and give a good first impression. So we've got to treat the product as something that we really want to make stand out. Know what it is that your house has that's going to make it stand out, and let's make sure you're highlighting that when it comes time to prepare the product. We've done all we can do for the product, so let's move on to the second P, which is price. Real estate is concerned, I will tell you that price overcomes all objections. So it's really important that when you're considering price, you're first considering what are the potential objections. If you are in a price point that is high for the neighborhood, you need to make sure that your living space has something really phenomenal. Have you recently updated everything in the house? Do you have some really luxury finishes that maybe aren't specifically in your neighbors' homes? If that's the case, then you can price accordingly. But if you've got some real base finishes, you need to consider that for your price. Or if you have finishes that need updating, you've got to account for that. Now, I know a lot of times people will ask me, well, should I go ahead and remodel the kitchen or remodel the bathroom before getting started? I don't normally recommend that. Here's why. If it needs remodeling anyway, it's much better to account for that in the price so that somebody can come along and remodel it to their specific standards. The only way I would recommend moving forward and remodeling bathrooms or kitchens is if you are working specifically with an interior designer who is helping you choose the finishes. I know we all think we have the best taste when it comes to what the house should look like, but trust me, you need a third party to consult with you to let you know what's on trend in the marketplace. You may say, oh, well, I hate those trends. I would never buy a house with those trends. However, have to remember that if it's currently on trend, you're going to be attracting more buyers who will want it to look that way. If you buck the trend and put something in that's specifically not really in fashion right now, you've just completely wasted your updating money. So it's better off to actually just let it be and account for the condition in the price. If you have some finishes, some flooring, some really lovely amenities, a large backyard that's been professionally landscaped with a hot tub and a pergola and a fire pit and all the good things, and most people in your neighborhood don't have that, that definitely adds value. If you have high-end flooring and lighting finishes where all the rest of your neighbors have the cookie cutter builder choices, that's going to add value too. Just keep in mind that whatever your finishes are going to have a direct correlation on how you choose your price. This is where it's really important that you're working with a professional real estate agent who is an expert in your marketplace and specifically your price point. Sometimes you have a house that may compare in your neighborhood one way, but compares with the greater town around it in another. You're pricing against other homes that are specifically like yours, but then you're also having to take into effect where your house is located. This brings us to place. Place is the third P, and your location is going to matter. We've all heard it in real estate. What are the most important things? Location, location, location. Is it a corner lot? A lot of times that's going to give you some added value, but then there's people out there who really could care less about the being on the corner. Does your home front or back to a busy road? If that's the case, you definitely have to account for it in price because you can't change the place. Where your home is located is going to have a big effect on how you price the home. And that's really the most important point. what is the general marketplace willing to pay for your home? Stay with me and make sure you're subscribed to my channel, because I will give you what the 2 signs of an overpriced property in our next video. But let's stay on our 4 Ps. So we've considered place, your neighborhood, who's around you. Is it super unique, or is it within a more homogeneous neighborhood? That is all going to come into effect. And then, of course, where is it placed in relationship to some of the other amenities that are in the neighborhood? The closer it is to desirable amenities, the more valuation you may be able to give it. Whereas the closer it is to less than desirable amenities, the more you may have to account for that by pricing it a little bit lower. Our 4th and final P is promotion. Now, this is where your real estate agent is going to come into effect in a big way. You've got to make sure you are promoting that property everywhere. It starts with what you're doing to prepare to promote. Professional photos, professional video, 3D tours are all extremely important. Professional photography is one of the most important things. Now, I get it. Some markets that are really small don't necessarily have professional photographers at the ready who know what they're doing in real estate. I've seen it. I get that and I understand it. So if you are in a smaller marketplace and your agent tells you that they don't use professional photography, then you can ask a follow-up question and ask them, well, are professional photographers generally available in this marketplace, or is it standard to use your own photography? If they tell you it's standard, then by all means ask them if they run their photos through any kind of editing or processing. There are some different tools out there that a real estate agent has access to where they can take the photos themselves, but then put those through a processing, and it's amazing. They lighten and brighten and sharpen. You can't make them look like something they're not. So you don't want to false advertise, but they do just sharpen and brighten the pictures a little bit. The other thing that they do too is you'll notice, like, sometimes when agents take their own pictures, they're a little bit at an angle, and some of these processing tools will actually straighten them up to make them look professional even though they're not. So make sure you're having that conversation with your agent. But also you want to make sure you've got video and 3D tour, because like I said earlier, the first place we have to sell your home is online. We have to get people to really like the house and then come into the house. Once they're in the house, then it's about how they're experiencing it. So remember when I mentioned when we declutter, sometimes if we don't declutter, your eye is captured wrong on those 2D photos? This is why it is so important that we're not leaving up every single picture on the wall or every little knickknack on the countertops. Because a lot of times what'll happen then is when the photos are taken, the person who's looking at the home online, their eyes are drawn more to your stuff than they are to the house, and it distracts them from actually experiencing how the house was intended to be experienced. So this is why it's so important. Make sure you're working with an agent who understands that. Beyond that, what else are we doing to promote your property? There are all sorts of places that we have to put it on. I kind of have a joke about this that I share with my sellers when I'm meeting with them, is I let them know what we don't do are the 3 Ps of real estate promotion, which is we place a sign in the yard, we put it in the MLS, and then we pray for the buyer to come. So if that's what your agent's marketing plan is, definitely get a different agent. Yes, of course, we're going to put it in the MLS, we're going to place a sign in the yard, but there's so many other things that need to happen. For instance, is your agent using an MLS that propagates to all of the big name real estate websites where people are shopping, like Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com? There are so many different ways that we can advertise your property, and specifically where we can find the ideal buyer and advertise directly to that ideal buyer. Also, are they holding open houses? Open houses are a little bit controversial. If you're not comfortable holding an open house, I definitely don't recommend that you go outside of your comfort zone to do it. But if you're okay with your agent holding an open house, it can often be a good way to get people through, especially if they were kind of eyeing your house up, but maybe they don't want to bother their agent. They're not sure they can afford it, or based on the pictures, they're not too sure. But then if they see there's an open house, they may come through, and when they experience it for themselves, it may just push them off the ledge. At the end of the day, if your agent is doing all the things, all the promotion possible, and you're still not getting the house sold, then I would say it comes back to product and price. It just means that the product you have is not desirable at the price you have it listed at. So you have one of two options: either increase the product viability. Maybe you need to have professional staging. Maybe it's time to get all the furniture out and have the furniture professionally staged in there. Maybe it's time to do some new landscaping. Maybe it's time to have another cleaning come through. Maybe you need to do some painting or some maintenance. Whatever the case may be, that's option number one, is to improve the product to match the price point. But in my experience, most sellers are not of that mindset. They don't have the time, and it's also a crapshoot. You're going to put some money into it, and it's possible that you improve the product to a point that it's looking fantastic, but the marketplace is still rejecting the price. So, in my professional opinion, I would highly recommend go to price. If you've exposed it to the open market and you don't have it sold yet, then price overcomes all objections. Make sure you're being informed by your real estate agent as to what's going on currently in the marketplace. If the market conditions are softening from a seller perspective, you may have to adjust your price, even if you look at price per square foot and what things have sold for in the past, and you know that it seems like it's priced right. But the market is speaking to you, and they're letting you know, no, it's not priced right. Price will be the key that overcomes the objections ultimately. That's how the 4 P's of marketing relate to you and how you can get your house sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time possible. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel and hit the bell to be notified, because the next video I post will tell you the 2 signs of an overpriced property. Now, is it possible that you've gone in and refinished some things or done some really phenomenal professional landscaping? If that's the case, it's going to definitely add value, but not as much as you might think. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with a seller who put in new flooring, and they think because they put in some new flooring throughout their house that suddenly their home is worth $550,000 when all the comps say it's worth $500,000. I will tell you, new flooring isn't going to get you a 10% lift on your valuation. It just doesn't. Now, if you have some other things going into it, that's great. And maybe the new flooring gives it $5,000 to $10,000. And I know right now you're looking at me going, but Jackie, I spent $50,000 on the flooring. There are no renovations where you are going to get a dollar for dollar return on that investment. So you kind of have to take that portion of it out of your mind, because it doesn't matter what you paid. It matters what the market will pay to acquire it. And no matter what else we talk about today, that's the key. My name is Jacki Tait. I'm the lead agent for Team 323 in Northern Arizona with Realty One Group Mountain Desert.